Hello. So let's get into this topic. I'm going to start by saying this is by no means a confession. I have no issue with the fact that I don't eat a fully raw diet. I don't feel to repent for it or confess that I don't eat only raw foods. And this is also not new news. I have not eaten a fully raw vegan diet for years now. And so this isn't some big revelation that I no longer eat only raw foods. I have not, like I said, for years. And this is also not a raw vegan bashing video. I have seen plenty of those where people who ate, whether it was a raw diet or a vegan plant-based diet for years, and come out to say that it didn't work and they had all these health problems and now they're eating a carnivore diet or just an omnivorous diet or whatever they're doing. And I'm not here to do that. I have literally nothing bad to say about a raw food, raw plant-based, raw vegan diet, except for perhaps the dogma around it that I see that I feel is quite unhealthy, and I'll get into some of that in a moment. But I wanted to lay that groundwork. This is not new news. This is not me bashing raw food, and I in no way feel less than because I don't only eat raw food. So let's get into it. I have three main points that I want to share in this video. The first one is why I no longer eat an exclusively raw vegan diet is pretty simple. I don't want to. Plain and simple, I don't want to. I enjoy cooked foods. I really thoroughly enjoy cooked foods. And if you don't know my story, I ate a fully raw vegan diet for almost 4 years. And during that time, I lived briefly in Thailand. I lived for a longer stretch in Hawaii. And I also lived in Ecuador, where fruit and raw foods were abundant as abundant could be. And I loved it. I loved that time in my life. I found myself. I found greater levels of health. I so much enjoyed traveling and trying exotic fruits that I had never heard of and was never exposed to growing up. And I loved it so very much. And then it got to a point where I was back at home. I'm from Pennsylvania in the United States with my family. And I was eating, my banana smoothies every day and having my salads in the evening. And I thought, I want some potatoes. I just want some potatoes. But I was a raw foodie. I was a raw vegan person. I only ate raw food for all of this time and had been influenced by people who did believe that a raw vegan diet was the way to eat, the way, the truth, and the life. It was the only way for health and healing. And while I never fully believed that, like I said, I was influenced by that. And therein lies my issue with the raw vegan diet is the mindset and perspective that is very dogmatic and cultish. But that really has nothing to do with the raw vegan food in and of itself. It's more in the health, or perhaps lack thereof, of some of the people who practice it. But perhaps that's a aside or a video for another time. All that to say, I wanted potatoes. That was the first thing that I started to really want, just some good old white potatoes with some ketchup. and so I did. I baked potatoes. I sliced up some potatoes and made them into fries, and enjoyed them alongside of my big salad. And that was my routine for quite some time, was just this raw vegan diet plus potatoes, and really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that. And then over time, I decided I wanted some other things. I wanted sweet potatoes and I wanted white rice because I really loved sushi. And over time, I included more and more things. And it's just because I wanted to, right? It's because I wanted to. And my philosophy on health is so much that joy is an essential nutrient. We don't talk about this enough, but it's so important. And so when it comes to finding health and healing in terms of food, we cannot exclude the joy and love of what we're eating. We can't. We simply can't. Or we can, but we don't get the full benefit of what we're eating. And I know this to be true deeply through my own life and the many different clients that I've worked with who have eaten pristine raw vegan diets for years on end and still struggle deeply with their health, still have chronic health issues. And maybe that's another bone I have to pick with the raw vegan community. This idea that if you only eat raw foods, you will heal. You'll heal anything. And that's simply not true. It's not true. I've seen it over and over again. And that would be true if we were just these very simple creatures who were only impacted by the food that we eat. But the reality is we are complex. We are not just physical, we are emotional and spiritual, and we have relationships and jobs, and we live in a world where many, many things impact our health. And so it's not just food. But even those who are eating very healthy diets oftentimes don't experience the love and the joy that I think is required to be getting the most out of their food, and because of that do not find the greatest possible benefits from it. So joy is an essential nutrient, and so I eat cooked foods because I want to, and I also eat lots of raw foods because I want to, and I think that we're here to experience all the things that we want to experience. It's almost like, I don't feel to pick between watermelon and bananas because I want them both. I enjoy them both. And I don't feel to pick between Italian food or Greek food because I like them both and I want them both. And so why choose between raw foods and cooked foods? Why not create a life and a diet that is full of all the things that I love? And so I have. Dogma aside. Point number 2. I don't think that raw foods are required for health and healing. I have heard some crazy things over the years with the raw food community, and not everyone is part of this. They are not. I, again, am not bashing raw food, and I'm not bashing the raw vegan community, but there are some truly unhealthy mindsets out there that I wish greater health and healing for those people, and also wish that while they were finding that health and healing, they might be a little more quiet so as not to impact other people who are listening and being influenced by them. But it is all of our responsibilities to act discerningly in who we listen to. Anyway, but I don't believe that raw food is required for health and healing. It's simply not. And that seems very obvious to me because there are people all the time, always, who are healing all sorts of chronic health issues, cancer, all kinds of things, eating things that are not only raw food. The Gerson therapy, which is a raw food heavy diet, is not exclusively raw food, and it has been shown to help people heal cancer over and over and over again. And Ayurveda has been around for how many thousands of years, and Chinese new medicine, and so many different diets and healing modalities people use that work for them. And some people have tried those things and have found that they have not worked for them. And so they come to the conclusion that raw food is the only thing that works. And perhaps raw food is the only thing that has worked for them. But that isn't true for everyone. Health and healing and food is so deeply personal. There is not a one size fits all. And so, yes, raw food is not required for health and healing. We are free to enjoy the abundance of raw food, and I think that we should. We are blessed to eat from nature exactly as it's given to us, and also we are blessed to experience the creativity and the joy of cooking and baking and combining flavors in a way that is unique to cooking our food. And so I say, let's do it. Let's live our lives and enjoy. Okay, so that's point number 2. Point number 3 is I don't live somewhere where raw foods are readily available and in season all year round. So I currently live in Pennsylvania, and like I said earlier, I lived in Thailand and Hawaii and Ecuador, where there was lots of local fruits and raw foods available, and it was a joy, and it felt very easy and natural to eat from the land, in many cases in my own backyard. But here in Pennsylvania, where we have winter that can be quite long sometimes, there is not fruit growing on the trees. And like I said, I was fully raw for almost 4 years, and did do that while living in Pennsylvania over the winter at a time. And that worked, and it is doable. I will never say it's not doable, but it sort of got to the point for me where I thought, you know, does it make more sense to live off of bananas imported from Central and South America that are picked and harvested and shipped with hands of people who may or may not be slaves or paid a fair wage, and these bananas may or may not be sprayed with chemicals to delay their ripening, and all the resources, all the gas and all the things that go into getting those bananas from Costa Rica to me? Or does it make more sense for me to have some of those bananas, because I do like bananas, and I'm grateful that we live in a world where we can share things from all over. But does it also make sense for me to eat the potatoes that my mom grew right in our backyard, or the spaghetti squash that the farmer that I have a relationship with grew in her land right down the road? And so I started to sort of think about food in a more nuanced way than I did for those first several years, where again, I was eating only raw food, and I started to think of all the resources that went into getting raw food to where I lived, and how perhaps it was more natural and simpler to eat cooked foods that needed to be cooked, that were where I live, that were where I'm from. And they were beautiful foods, right? Beautiful foods that were organic and grown with love, like potatoes grown by my mom. What could be more nutritious than food grown by the hands of a loving parent, or a local farmer who this is her livelihood, right? And we want to see local farmers at farmers markets, and at their farms selling their produce right out of their farm, their barn, or at least I want to see that. And so I started to incorporate more cooked foods as a result of that sort of thinking. And perhaps if I found myself someday living somewhere warmer or tropical, which I don't actually want to do, I don't see myself wanting to do that. But if my mind would change and I did want to do that, maybe I would go back to eating raw foods, and maybe not. Maybe I could also live in Hawaii and eat some raw foods and eat some cooked foods. And again, joy being an essential nutrient, I would do whatever it is that I wanted to do. I would imagine I would probably find myself eating more fruit because it would just be more accessible. But that is not where I am right now. It's not where I want to be. I want to be here in Pennsylvania for a variety of reasons. And so eating food that grows in Pennsylvania and stores well over the winter in Pennsylvania makes sense to me. So those are my 3 biggest points. I eat cooked foods because I want to. And I think that, like I said, we're here to enjoy life. We're here to enjoy it. And joy is so, 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 so important. And I see too many people getting caught up in trying to do the right thing, trying to do what they think they should do, thinking that they discovered the panacea of all truth in a raw vegan diet. And like I said, it's a beautiful way to eat and a lifestyle to live, but it isn't required. It's not necessary. If you want to eat 98.9% raw food and occasional cooked food, then do that. You make the rules for your life, as I have made the rules for my life. And so I eat the amount of raw foods I want, and I eat the amount of cooked foods that I want. And that feels amazing. And I encourage the same for you. If you feel to eat only raw foods, enjoy yourself, but perhaps don't box yourself in. Perhaps make it so that you enjoy the amount of raw foods that you enjoy, and you leave space for the occasional cooked meal out with friends or with family, or just with yourself. I think, back to the nuance of life, there's not a lot of people who eat only raw food, and there's not many places to go to get raw food, at least in terms of restaurants or cafes, and the ability to connect with other people over food is an important, deeply human and important thing that we all do. I remember having a client a little while ago who got on a call with me on Monday morning and was feeling a little bit down, and I asked her what was going on, and she said that she had stayed home over the weekend and ate a bowl of oranges while her girlfriends who had invited her had all gone out to brunch, and she didn't go because on the menu there wasn't anything raw vegan. And she was feeling down about this, right? And so I said, I wonder if perhaps there may have been more health in going to that cafe to have brunch with your girlfriends, where you would have laughed and connected and felt seen and experienced the love and the joy of those relationships, while eating a salad that had a seed oil or something on it that you didn't necessarily love to have. That could have perhaps been a healthier choice than to eat oranges alone, sad and depressed at home. And she came to the conclusion as well that it would have been a healthier choice to go out. And so, like I said, we're not just physical beings. We are spiritual and emotional and personal, and we have relationships, and we live in a world, and the world is as the world is, and we can make whatever choices we feel to make in this world, but I don't feel to make choices that feel to isolate me further than maybe perhaps I already feel isolated in some ways because of not just my diet, but beliefs and ways that I live. I want to be connected with people, and I want to find opportunities to connect with those people as much as I can. That still feels good for my health and my values and my ethics. And so I eat cooked foods because I want to, and I don't think that raw foods are required for health and healing, or exclusively raw foods are required for health and healing, and I don't live somewhere where they grow locally all year round. So those are some of my big reasons why I don't, or no longer, eat a fully raw vegan diet. And like I said, this isn't by no means a confession. I feel no shame or remorse or sadness around it. I love my diet. Love my diet more than I ever have. I feel better than I ever have in my life. Currently on my second pregnancy, within a year. And I don't think that's because I've included cooked foods. I just think that's because I've cultivated deeper joy and a more relaxed attitude around food, and that serves me. I think it's a really important part of health and healing. So all that to say, eat what you want. Eat what you want. Don't listen to people who tell you have to do this or you have to do that, or you're never going to heal if you do this and you're never going to heal if you do that. You actually get to make up the rules for your life. You do. You get to make up the rules, and there's a million, billion, as many people on this planet as there are ways to heal and live a healthy life. And so I encourage you to find your way and to find your way and to love it. So anyway, hope this stirred up some thinking for you. Let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts, or if this was helpful, or if you want me to build on this topic in another video, or on another topic in another video. Let me know. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.